What is a planet? Long before anyone understood what a planet actually was, ancient skywatchers noticed something odd. Almost all the stars stayed in the exact same pattern, night after night, year after year, locked in place like dots painted on a ceiling. But a handful of bright points didn't follow the rules. They drifted slowly across the sky, tracing their own paths against the background stars. Ancient Greek astronomers called them planetes, meaning wanderers. Many cultures believed these wandering lights were gods. The Romans even named them after their gods. Mars is the god of war, glowing red like blood. Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, blazing bright in the morning and evening sky. It took a long time to figure out that these wandering stars weren't stars at all, and definitely weren't gods. They were something else entirely. So what actually is a planet? A planet is a large, round world that orbits a star, and is big enough that its own gravity has pulled it into a roughly ball-like shape. Unlike a star, a planet doesn't produce its own light. Everything we see when we look at a planet is really just sunlight or starlight bouncing off its surface. That's why the wandering stars move differently. They weren't twinkling points of self-made light far away. They were much closer worlds reflecting the sunlight and drifting along their own orbits. Planets come in a few different flavors. Some, like Earth, Mars, and Mercury, are called rocky or terrestrial planets. Solid ground you could, in theory, stand on, made mostly of rock and metal. Others, like Jupiter and Saturn, are gas giants. Enormous planets with no solid surface at all, just layer upon layer of thick gas and swirling storms wrapped around a small, dense core. In fact, Jupiter alone is so big that more than 1,300 Earths could fit inside it. Our solar system has 8 official planets, each one strange and different. Mercury, scorched and cratered, is closest to the Sun. Venus, wrapped in thick clouds and hotter than an oven, hot enough to melt lead. And of course Earth, our blue and green home. Mars, the dusty red planet, once home to rivers and lakes billions of years ago. Then there's the giants. Jupiter with its great red spot, a storm bigger than the Earth that's been raging for at least centuries. Saturn with its stunning rings made of ice and rock, and the more distant ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, both wrapped in freezing blue-green atmospheres. You might be wondering about Pluto. For decades, Pluto was taught as the 9th planet. But in 2006, astronomers agreed on an official definition of planet. And one of the rules is that a planet has to be big enough that its gravity has cleared its orbital path of other debris. Pluto shares its neighborhood with lots of other icy objects, so was reclassified as a dwarf planet instead. It sparked a genuine outrage from Pluto fans around the world, and honestly, that's a pretty good sign of how much people had grown to love a distant little ice world nobody had even photographed up until 2015. Here's something wonderful. Planets aren't just a solar system thing. Since the 1990s, astronomers have discovered thousands of planets orbiting other stars, some stars like our Sun, and other stars much smaller or perhaps larger than our Sun. Planets around other stars are called exoplanets. Some are scorching hot, orbiting so close to their star that a year lasts just a few hours. Others are icy and dark, drifting far from their parent star's warmth, and some that have no parent star. These rogue planets are worlds adrift in the darkness of space, lost in eternal darkness. A few sit in what scientists call the habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone, because it's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just right for liquid water to exist. Finding one of those with signs of life would be one of the biggest discoveries in human history. We've already sent robots rolling across Mars, taking pictures and drilling into rocks, searching for clues about whether life ever existed there. Someday, maybe not too far off, human footprints might join those rover tracks. And who knows, maybe someday we'll set foot on a planet orbiting a completely different star, standing under a sky that has never once been photographed by anyone, looking back at a sun that isn't ours. And from that point of view, our sun will appear as just another small, twinkling point of light in an alien night sky.